Oh yeah, misery loves company.
We're back. We're back.
It's Liquid Lunch. We got Robin Armstrong here, famous astrologer, and well, we might as well tell you, we're both Virgos.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a tough job. Somebody has to
really
be
a tough
Somebody
job.
has to be perfect.
You know that it's
And it's harder to put up with everybody else who's
Absolutely.
Oh, it's really, and we do know what's right.
The empathetic levels, it's it's through our veins, but we tough it out every day.
Yeah.
not. There's a system for everything.
Is there? Okay, so let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's
Not
talk
just
about
us,
astrology.
But, let's talk about astrology.
Yeah. Well, astrology is an interesting thing. Many people think it's not a science. It's an art, or it's not. It's a belief, or what? Really, astrology is just a language. Like,
Okay.
do you believe in English? How can it be real? Do you believe in French? How can it be real?
Right.
People get caught in the biases of language, but it's just a way of thinking. And there's two assumptions basically in astrology. Mm-hmm. Life has meaning, and we're part of it.
Right. Okay.
If you take those elements out, then you're into just a scientific world. You get depressed, you take some medicine, you do something, and it's nothing about anything personal.
Yeah.
But where you are in your life, where you're going, who you are, that you're somebody, that you're special, that's your horoscope. You're it. What you do with it, that's the next challenge.
Okay.
But of course, the universe, the planets, the alignments, all that stuff comes into play.
Sure.
About
When you're born, it's like the solar system is, you stop time for a second.
Right.
And you get a slice of time. And where the planets are, they're like alarms on a clock to get pulled.
Okay.
So when you have this clock with 12 alarms or 10 alarms pulled in it. And that pattern of where the planets were, that's the character of who you are. It shows how you behave and what's comfortable for you. But the world doesn't stop because you got on. Everything keeps moving.
Right.
And as everything keeps moving, you get further away from where you were when you were born, when you were pure potential.
Yeah.
And every time one of those planets move along and they touch one of the alarms, something alarming happens in your life, and a crisis happens, which to me, crises are opportunities for growth. You don't grow if you don't get challenged, if you don't have a kid who grows up.
Right.
You know, just things happen, but you can see, an astrologer can see the timing of when these things happen. So the mixture of the character that we are, what makes us, what suits us, what works for us, and how we deal with time challenges. That's the magic of life. That's the magic of astrology. When it works, most time systems you go and study, it's really organizing your book to make your appointments. It's not taking consideration whether you're upset that day, whether you're not upset that day, or what's going on, whether you're accident prone. Like this last week has been one of the most hyper weeks in the like trying to travel and trying to go anywhere.
You mean astrologically?
Yeah, everybody's wired this past week or two. Like it's just this, especially the last 3 or 4 days. Mars and Uranus have been conjunct, and everybody's pushing, trying to be really independent or totally anxious because everything's not working the way it is, and this worry factor is really there.
But and it's springtime. Everybody wants to be out doing stuff and just enjoying life.
Yeah, but this is a specific thing, and
Right.
it happens. It's affecting people born in about a week in 4 places of the year. One is Virgo, between September 14th and 18th. In that area, they're wired and really
We
vulnerable.
got off lucky there, Stu.
Okay, so but that's December too. The Sagittarius, December 14th to about the 18th have the same. They haven't been sleeping. They're just wired.
Right.
Nothing's working. Things are breaking apart. They're supposed to just let go and let it go, not be forcing things. Same with Geminis, June 14th to 17th, and Pisces from about maybe March 13th to about the 17th. They're all, the Pisces are the ones instigating things, but everyone's hyper and wired, not calming down. But that's not they can't last at that for very long.
No. Exactly.
So you see the timings. I just given it as an example.
Yeah.
If something's going on now, you run into out in the world because it's just nature and the weather. You see people driving crazy things. But when it's touching you, it's more. This is bothering me more. This is me. You know,
it
like
reverberates a little bit more with your own self.
Yeah.
Right. Now, again, we were talking earlier. Like you said, this was not a plan for you.
No.
You fell sort of into
Yep.
astrology.
No, I was
How
in
did that happen?
chemistry, math.
Oh, okay.
Going for chemical engineering and stuff. My family split up. I took off and traveled. Fortunately, it was mid-60s,
Nice. Yeah.
early to mid-60s, and that was a nice time to take off and travel.
Absolutely.
And somewhere, I don't know, it would have been about 1970, I ran into... Really, I should go back a little bit, because in the 60s, everybody's spaced out. It seemed like a really great thing, but everybody got stoned. Everybody's getting messed up. And then people were getting messed up. So it became a bad thing, not a good thing.
Right.
So that was a big disenchantment for me, like when that happened. And that for me, that happened end of 67.
So Summer of Love.
Yeah, well,
it all kind of imploded.
I'd been living in San Francisco or Haight-Ashbury and Greenwich Village, different places through the mid-60s. And then when I was breaking apart and I realized something's wrong here, it really disoriented me. So I ended up going to India. I lived in India for a couple of years. I I did fasting and meditating. I spent periods of time alone. Once I spent 13 months in a black room just meditating, not seeing a person, not coming out. At the end of that, I had these visions, and I didn't stop. When the visions came, I didn't sleep for 50 days. Wow. I just couldn't. I was lying down, relaxing, but my mind was going off. It was all about astrology, how things are connected. I didn't know it was astrology then.
Okay.
I came back to North America in 69. By 70, I went down to California again, and someone did his horoscope for me. And my reaction was, "You mean I'm supposed to be like this?" First reaction. Right. And then I realized half of my vision was just basically how astrology was connected. Then I couldn't get enough. It was just like a hobby that took over, became the career. And now 40 years have gone by, I'm still doing it. It's still interesting. You meet everybody for who they are. Like everyone's an individual. Everyone has their individual way to go. And we run into freedoms and responsibilities, and we grow through that. And as we deal with it or don't deal with it, we get our guilts, we get hang-ups, or we have to come back and face them again. So this idea of timing, when we deal with things, when to be up, when to be down, it's special. It's a very intimate thing, but it's a very useful piece of information to get. So it worked for me. Then I got into it. Other people wanted to know about it. It just kept going. Then I started a school, and I was teaching 5 nights a week for about 30 years. Now I have it all on CDs.
Yeah, right.
So it's a process, but really it's learning a language. You learn to think that life has meaning. Everyone has meaning. If you have a baby and you look at the horoscope, you see a terrible horoscope, you don't throw out the baby. You learn about the horoscope. You learn how to deal with it. If you got the kid from hell and you're trying to figure out how they you may not stop them from being the kid from hell.
Right.
But you might be able to figure out how they process to reach them, to not be able to be so twisted by it.
I guess it's kind of like, really, it's just a tool to understanding a situation that otherwise you don't have any insight into.
It could be argued that psychology without astrology is dangerous guesswork, or really getting someone to come in all the time to keep getting therapy and therapy and therapy and go on and on and on, when you might be able to see the person's character and work at it and do it much faster. Those are merging. Those are fields merging anyways. I didn't mean to be critical about psychology. Just as an example, with somebody analyzing you without a sense of who you are, that you're unique, where you are in your life, what you're going through.
And I guess it makes sense to approach somebody as an individual. And of course, their chart is going to be a map of their individuality.
The solar system, the nature around you at the moment you're born is a map of who you are. If you're born in the middle of a snowstorm, yep, that's part of you. If you're born in a thunderstorm, that's part of you.
And that's where all the sort of similarities come when you say, I'm a Virgo or a Pisces or something. Not every Pisces or Virgo is the same, but they certainly have certain similarities of the time
most
that they were
psychological
born.
typing's about, you get 16 types of this or 32 types of that.
Right.
If you just take the sun sign and the moon sign, you got 144 types before you add the other planets, or before you take the time of day of where it is. It's a very sophisticated classification system. Really, music theory and astrology theory are almost the
Very
same.
close, yeah.
So a lot of people go play a song, but not that many people know music.
Right.
Or are tuned in or are working with her in a relationship to understanding the different frequencies. That takes time. Same thing.
Okay. So let's just shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about, I guess you can look at astrology from a micro point of view, in other words, how it pertains to an individual, or a macro point of view, in other words, what's going on
in the world
with society, with the situation right now. And I'm wondering if you have any insights about what's going on, like with the economic situation, with Obama in the U.S., and of course with our beloved Stephen Harper here in Canada.
Who?
What? Beloved?
Okay, so if we go back over the last few years, until about last fall, for about 2 years, we had Neptune and Saturn opposing each other in the sky, and it made Saturn's governments, Neptune's dreams and visions and deception and confusion. It made governments and companies do things without being responsible for it. We'll go on this scheme, we'll go on this, we'll pay for it later, we'll just do it, whatever. And there's a lack of naive vision. We got to fight these wars, we got to do these things. It was like gullible, it was naive, it was a belief system being imposed on government. And not necessarily compassionate one, but it cost a lot. It wasn't real. So starting about a year ago, Uranus started to oppose Saturn. That finished and Uranus started to oppose Saturn, and that causes the sudden shocks of the structure.
Now, how long is that going to last, Uranus opposing Saturn?
That's pretty much most of this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's always something. The planets are always there. So they're moving around. They just align and make certain patterns at certain times. So first of all, the shocking of it, the waking up, that's one thing. But those are waves. There's still a big swell going on about what's going on as well. Yeah, you have waves in the ocean, you have the swell.
Yeah.
Right.
And you have the ocean. So, like, most of us are living so electronic and living in ways we don't notice them. All of a sudden, we're doing without something. Mm-hmm. We're having to pay for something for gas. Like, it starts pushing the limit. But part of the battle in the world is who's in control. Is it corporations or countries?
Or something else.
Or something else. Yeah, of course. There's higher controls too.
Right.
But the other thing that happened over this past year started at the beginning of 2008, backed off, came back as Pluto went into Capricorn, which is Pluto's about 12 to 20 years in a sign. It can
So
vary.
that just transitioned within the last
It
year?
just transitioned into Capricorn over the last year. Now, Capricorn, again, is the administration, organizations, the governments. And Pluto goes in, and Pluto's the auditor general of the solar system. It creates these confrontations about life. For people, it hits confrontation about where am I going, what's real, what's not. I'm afraid, what am I going to do? Well, it's doing that personally, but it hit the countries like that. So all of a sudden, who's in control? What's really in control? We're going to go into a time period. Like right now, we think everything's going to be free, everything's open. Everything's going into tremendous controls as things get tighter financially. I mean, throwing money away to companies that are just caused the rip-off in the first place is a dumb thing. It's only going to, so we're going to come up a little bit for 4 or 5 months, and it's going to come crashing down. We're not at the bottom of this yet.
We're not, okay.
And then we've lost too much. It's going to take 5 or 6 years, maybe 10, like the 30s, to get out of this. And what comes back to normal.
Is that what the stars are saying in your
It's
estimation?
It's my understanding of the language of the stars.
Okay.
Okay, my take on it.
Okay.
Lots of different takes. But when I look at this, as this happens, there's going to the companies and the businesses and the countries that survive are going to be extremely controlling. So this means, like, take the internet. It's not going to be a free internet for very long. You're going to have to buy your channels, like TV.
Yeah.
You're going to be paying postage stamps on email. You're going to have things starting to be very controlled.
Absolutely.
And
It's coming.
that's not that far away. It's all going to be cost. It's all part of the last time the planets are where they are now, like this last 50 years, 100 years, been really speeded up. Look at everything that's happened this 100 years.
Yeah.
The planets were like this, and they went through this again 500 years ago. Only 500 years ago, it was the discovery of North America and the printing press and the beginning of the age of the written word.
Yeah.
So now we have space travel, we have the computer and the internet, and we have the age of the bitten word. So everything that happened from the cowboys and Indians and the mail strikes and robbing the mail trains and stuff like this to getting controls on the mail and getting the systems to fight that, we're running through viruses and internet.
Right.
And the same things are going to come down to control it. You're going to have to pay to get the controls. And these things are coming. When? There's a spectrum. I don't know exactly when. I can see them. And people will navigate through it. It's just the way it's going to go. But to think we're going to more freely open-ended systems and not think that there's more control coming in is naive.
And is control just a nice word for greed?
Well,
Or do we really need to tax all
even
these
without
things
the
to make...
greed, if you're going to feed everybody on the planet, or how long are we going to be before we're having to breathe bottled air? And who can afford to get it? And who has the rights to air? Who owns air?
Monsanto, I thought.
Eh? Yeah.
It was Monsanto. But
Yeah, if you take these things and get paranoid and go far away, you go that way. But then you back up and say, what's normal? We're here. We got our families. We're trying to go. We got to feed ourselves. We got to pay the rent. Bad enough, and we're trying to get by day to day. We're not watching the bigger things. Most of us, those things don't mean anything. It's enough to just keep our jobs, whatever. But when I first studied astrology, it was a puzzle. Well, what's freedom in this? Well, freedom is the ability to find meaning in smaller cycles when the bigger ones are blocked.
okay, that's
So if there's a big crisis, we're going to end up living in smaller communities and smaller areas and getting by without having to travel so much. I sent a bar of soap to someone for Christmas. The bar of soap cost me $4. The postage cost me $20.
Right.